It's Friday, June 14th at 8:41 a.m.
Good morning. So we have a special guest today with us. We did not do a very good job of explaining our day staff and maybe some of the grade issues that we had with that. So I'm going to let Christy come up here first thing, and she has a little presentation to give you, and we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself for the record?
Sure. My name is Christy Pincock. Do you need more than that?
Nope.
Okay. So just prepared something I'll read rather than, and then if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. So we disagree with the analysis performed on the job descriptions for the fire department administrative staff, specifically the billing and coding clerk and the fire and EMS support.
Okay.
One of the primary functions of the administrative staff is medical billing for the Bannock County Ambulance District. This is a vital impact on the revenue collected for the district. This year, we are responsible for collecting $1.9 million of the EMS budget. Ambulance billing requires knowledge and adherence to federal regulations outlined in CFR 42. We are subject to investigation by the Office of Inspector General for compliance of the regulations. Adherence to federal regulations is mandatory for the revenue of the ambulance district. Compliance failure will impact the ambulance district ability to file claims to Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal programs. Additional consequences include recalling up to 3 years of payments for Medicare, being placed on the Medicare exclusion list, and losing our ability to file claims with Medicare, Medicaid, and the other federal programs. The federal payment sources are estimated to be 50% of the revenue that we do collect. We are the custodians of the protected health information, PHI, and hold the responsibility of meeting HIPAA regulations on all records. The billing service was analyzed several years back. It was determined that we are proficient in billing and collections, and it was determined also at that time that these functions would remain in-house rather than being outsourced. So now to talk specifically about the two job descriptions I mentioned. So the billing and coding clerk's primary duties are to review and process patient care reports and accurately code for billing. As noted in the job description, this requires a medical coding certification. So both AAPC and AHIMA certify medical coders. Our job description does not identify or limit which certification this position must hold. In addition to the medical coding certification, the position is required to obtain the certified ambulance coder certification within 12 months. This certification is specific to coding for ambulance services and covers regulations specific to EMS. The position is requires advanced knowledge of federal regulations for EMS billing. Medical coding is subject to OIG review and has an impact to revenue collected. This position can affect the city's financial standing, carries high liability risk for the city, and the certification required for this position was overlooked in the analysis of the position. For the fire and EMS support, I want to begin by addressing the job description. Has not been changed since 1998. The job description notes that it was reviewed in 2010, but it was not updated at that time. Failure to update the job description in almost 20 years has inherently created an issue with analysis. The job description does not reflect the actual duties being performed by the position or identify the level of financial responsibility and risk to the city. The fire EMS support staff holds the same responsibilities as the billing and coding clerk, as this position is also responsible for reviewing and processing of patient care reports and accurately coding for billing. In addition, this position is responsible for fire department payroll, cost recovery for deployments, account receivable entries, and issuance of fire department permits. The position is actively involved in the city's payroll processing. After processing has begun by the finance clerks, this position holds the responsibility to review the computer systems processing to ensure that FLSA hours are properly calculated for the work period for the fire department's 7K exempt shift employees, and ensure that changes have been accurately processed. This position completes the cost recovery packets for deployments, which totaled more than $400,000 last year. The level of responsibility for this position was not identified, as it can affect the city's financial standing and carries high liability risk for the city.
Okay.
Any questions for me about those positions?
So the city has no problem reviewing them. However, it has to be reviewed off of the job description submitted to us. So if you want those positions to be reassessed with different certifications or clarified data, I need updated job descriptions.
Absolutely. I feel that some of the information is included in there, specifically the billing and coding clerk. It has the medical coding requirement in there, but in the analysis provided by HR, that wasn't identified. They only talked about the certification for the ambulance specific one. So I felt like that was just overlooked. When it comes to the EMS and fire support, the responsibilities for coding, for payroll, for cost recovery, those are all included in there. I just feel that maybe the understanding of the level of importance wasn't given to those responsibilities. So they are in there. They're just not described in the terms that we're using today that maybe give that
And
importance.
again, we're responding to the papers that were submitted to us. So
Okay.
if there's modernization, and just to be clear, amount of dollars they touch, it's still just dollars. So you don't get paid more because you process more dollars. So while it does have an impact, whether the billing's 10,000 or 100,000, we still just look at it as billing. So the amount that they flow through, it's still the same flow.
Okay, well, we felt that some of the criteria that was presented by HR was that there was the wording was that the financial, it can affect the city's financial standing. And with the amount of revenue that they are processing, that does impact it. And so we wanted to point out that.
Which matches a
That.
utility billing person who sees massive revenue for the city. So again, if you want us to reconsider those, we need modified job descriptions submitted to us.
We would actually absolutely love to present updated job.
We just want those
Descriptions.
turned over because we need it to actually be written as we can apply it, not an explanation of the written.
Okay,
Yep, but we'll happily look at those if you guys have revised.
all right.
Thanks, Chrissy.
Anytime I can get a job description reviewed and modernized, I'm all in.
Do you want a hard copy of the explanation?
No, we'll
well?
watch
No.
the video,
Okay.
unless you want to submit it.
Okay.
I can guarantee Steph's sitting in HR right now taking notes.
Okay.
Okay, so we have the pay scale that was requested last meeting, as well as a cleaner copy of the proposal. We just,
The 20A,
yes, or of the counter, sorry. So we just went back through and changed those items to reflect what we had struck through
okay?
and initialed. So I'll go ahead and give you that. One thing, sorry, go ahead.
Is this a revision to your counter 11 then?
It is, yes, I think you would call it
Okay.
a revision. There's nothing.
Nothing new, it's just
necessarily
tidied
new.
up. Okay.
Just tidied up, yep. One thing we did talk about is when we have new hires going through academy, we'll need to add a, basically a 40-hour rate for those employees because they will not fall under the
2912.
the 2912 work week when they're first hired. Does that make sense? Okay. So that first sheet as far as the pay scale goes, is labeled corrected table. As we were going through it, we found a couple of things in it. Scott, do you want to
Yeah.
elaborate?
So the revised table that you provided, I believe on the 10th,
Okay, so just, what table are we talking about? Because I'm holding yours, you're talking about mine.
the table you provided on
Okay,
the revised one.
okay,
After the error that we brought to your attention, I think a couple weeks prior to that. This one appears to still have some errors in the firefighter with paramedic grade. The stipend or the paramedic pay difference appears to be about 16.6%, not 17. I don't know where that came from, but this table that we provided, the first one, corrects that. And there's also a couple other
so
things in here.
now you're referencing this one.
Yeah,
Okay.
the one we provided.
So I'm just gonna look at this one.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that one corrects it to 17%. There's also a couple of other things in here with the ARF pay that aren't consistent with the contract language we currently have and how it's currently applied. It looks like the 50 cent an hour ad pay was applied to step one, and then the table increase is propagated through so that it goes to closer to 70 cents.
Yeah, at the end.
And if that was intentional, I don't know if that's something we would push back on, but that is not consistent with the way that we are currently doing things and the way that contract's currently written. So this does correct it back to being a 50-cent increase over the base grade that it's
Okay.
being compared to. And then at the bottom, you can see what the step increases are for each of the grades, and then the grades that are dependent upon each other, how they are related on the table at the bottom there. And then, you want me to go into the other tables too? So I don't have the other ones in front of you, but you do have a proposed FY, or in front of me, but you guys do have an FY 25, 26, 27, and 28 proposed table in there.
no, we revoked those when we submitted the
We
4
provided you
years.
one. We just provided you one in this our packet.
Yeah, we built out
You
the
built out?
subsequent years.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, and that includes the
Got your, you want some?
0.25 yeah. And so those tables include the proposals that are in the written portion of the 0.25% step increase for steps 1 through 7 in FY 25, and then the 0.25% step increases for steps 8 through 12 in FY 27, as well as the table adjustments that are listed in there.
okay.
Do you have any more questions for us on this?
I do.
Oh, one more thing, just for clarification. With this, some of the positions that we've been talking about and the removal of the fire marshal from our table, the grade designations, the FF grades, have been changed a little bit from what we have been talking about, just to make everything fit
Okay, no problem.
a little bit more cleanly. But there's nothing other than the label.
And those changes are also reflected in our language proposal, our revised language proposal.
So I'm looking at the attachments you have, and I see stapled, no date on this one. So which year is this?
It is the corrected table, I believe it says at the top.
Just the general, like kind of where we sit right now table. The first one is just where things lie right now. Like the placement table, the first one that you proposed.
So this table is a rebuild of this table.
So this
using
has
the-
nothing to do with your submission.
That is what everything else is based off of because of the errors in what was presented here. So,
Your perceived errors.
well, yes, that's. what-
So you
we
have
can
25,
Figure that out later, but
26, and 27. There's no 28.
there should be a 28 in there.
I do not have a 28.
Okay, we can provide one.
Okay, I'll pull Jared's.
But yeah, this is a rebuild of the table using all the criteria that was laid out in the presentation. One of the earlier sessions, the PowerPoint presentation that you provided for us, that went through how the table was put together originally.
So how are you placing employees on the table for the first year?
Address that.
You have it.
Might need to have a quick
We're gonna take a
chat
quick
before
break
we-
and talk about that, and we'll come back
Okay.
with that.
On that.
No,
We
let's
can
take
take
a
it
break.
outside.
Let's take a break.
8:59.
Okay, so as far as placement goes onto, for our members onto the scale, we would place them on the FY '25 proposed scale.
Okay.
We feel like that would be the most cost-effective way for the city to handle that.
So that's page 5. FY '25 of the
Correct,
Okay.
that is correct.
I need my calculator, sorry.
So at this time, what we could do is, we would like to take a caucus break.
I have some
and-
questions,
Okay,
so I need just a second.
very good.
So I have questions or very marked concerns with your fire prevention captain. So the with paramedic is a do or die for us. I cannot justify that expense to the county because the person will not be operating on that. Our counter proposal had said while they were working in that capacity, we could entertain that, but I cannot pay them the stipend for time they are not going to be working because I can't justify it to the county. So I just need to be very clear there.
Okay.
I do have concerns with the placement with the fire prevention captain receiving that 9.2 into base. That puts us within $2,500, $3,000 of the battalion chief working 1,000 hours less a year. I really struggle that position is getting this huge benefit and is working 1,000 hours less and is almost making what a BC is making. So I was hoping you could help educate me on that.
We can do that after caucus.
I wanted to float it out there because I figured you'd have to get some
Yeah,
talking points together for
We'll
me.
get some talking points together on that one and bring that one back to you.
Okay, well, we're good with the caucus then.
Okay.
And we are back from caucus.
Okay. To have a chance to look over our proposal?
We do.
Okay.
I was hoping you could address the fire prevention captain hours differential for me.
Sure, yeah. So the day captain right now, the way that it works is interchangeable with the shift captain. That gives us the ability to maintain the ability to keep that position filled because the pay is equal. So there's no discrepancy there between those two positions. That's how the position has been paid historically. We feel like that's a good way to pay that position. And it keeps the position equally valued with its counterparts on the line. Our hourly rates on a 2912 are significantly lower than our counterparts throughout the city, the police department counterparts, other departments, other employees that work the same type of functions as we do. The only reason why we make our annual rate, that doesn't make any sense, is because we work nearly 1,000 hours more than a 40-hour employee per year. Do you want to correct that? No. Okay. So that's why we feel like this position and the roles and responsibilities that this position has that were outlined, I think it was last meeting by us. So just a little bit further explanation on that.
So I totally agree with matching the base annual salary. I have an issue with the 9.2%.
What is the specific issue with the 9.2?
You're saying you want to keep them whole to their annual. Well, that is their annual. That's the base salary that the person earns. So why aren't we matching that apple to that apple?
The way we are currently set up with the ad pays that we operate with right now, there is a difference with holiday pay and FLSA pay.
They
That
do,
changes that.
but doesn't the day captain get holidays off?
I believe they do get them off, but it is still a change in annual compensation. And so what we're looking at is that the annual compensation is identical since they're both captains at the end of the day.
Then why are we not matching that they just get holiday pay and they don't get holiday hours? Why do they get both?
That is a discussion that we can have, but that is how it's set up right now, so they're interchangeable.
And I had to be honest, I'm really struggling because I'm hearing that a lot today. That's not what we do. And I know, and I understand how big of impact this has. I've started going through the CBA highlighting. If you think I have a lot of proposals now, wait until you see how much of the CBA has to be revised if we come to agreement on table. Everything we used to do is currently a consideration, but is not active part of the discussion because we're fundamentally changing those. So that's why I'm asking, if we're gonna go with the 9.2 added, then they should be dropping those holiday hours. I mean, if we're gonna go parity to parity, then we need to aim for total.
I think the system back in the 90s when we went to this, the captain is the day captain position. They came up with this 9.2 to make these positions interchangeable so that we can always fill it with the captain from the line. And if the captain wants to go there for a couple of years and then come back, it's the same annual rate as they experience on the line. And it's worked. It's worked for 30, 35 years. We've always had that position filled. And so I guess maybe it doesn't make perfect sense that they get holiday pay, but if the system works, why break it down and try to reduce pay for this person?
Yeah, and I would say that, I would be careful to point out too, that it's not that they are receiving holiday pay. They're receiving a separate, what do they call it? What do we call it in the contract right now? It's a
Special assignment pay.
And while that is part of what it's making up for, it is the pay to make up for the differential being on a 28 instead of a 2912 year. So.
And I'm just saying, if we're gonna use things that we've used for 30 years, why are we looking at a new scale? What's wrong with the one you have now? We've asked for change. With that change comes other things that need to be affected. So if we're willing to look at a whole new scale that is exponentially the best scale you've ever seen presented in a union negotiation, why are we not willing to have a discussion about that day's captain being corrected?
We feel that it's going to be a decrease in pay for this individual. And
But if-
our job as the bargaining unit is to ensure that if this position is an equal rank and an equal workload, that it's kept whole. And That's our stance on that.
I understand, and I'm just trying to make sure, I think we're talking about the same thing, and I think we're very close. But again, we're back to, are you talking about a person or are you talking about a position?
A position.
Okay, so please say position, because I am talking about a position. I am not talking about the incumbent. I want to be very clear there. I'm not talking about any singular person. If we're talking about equity and we're revising the whole scale and the whole structure, and the city is seeing this as a problem, if you want them to have the holiday pay, then let's put the 5.2 there, drop the 9.2, give them the 5.5, and remove the holiday hours. So they're treated the exact same as line staff. But positions on the line, your guys' overtime opportunities are much higher because of the model that we run. Backfill is a good example. The days captain currently, moving to a fire prevention captain, are they going to backfill into a captain role?
They sure can.
Yes.
They can, but do they?
Yeah.
If we're talking about just the position and not
And
the
the-
current incumbent,
But
yeah.
then they're paid overtime at this new rate of pay. So they're going, if they work any amount of overtime, they're going to far surpass a captain on the line.
The overtime rate is the same.
Curtis, if you're going to talk, please be at the table.
Excuse me. But the overtime rate is the same. The captain's overtime rate is not based on 2912, it's based on 28. So the overtime rate would be the same, a day captain or a shift captain. We don't have two separate overtimes, so his overtime rate is the
Overtime
same.
is blended, right?
What do you mean by blended?
So like if you have an ARF assignment and you're not on ARF, when they calculate overtime, it's on a blended rate between those two rates.
So our overtime rate is based upon our base wage plus all our ad pays.
Yes, but
divided
if
by
you
28.
have two rates of pay for like ARF, you have a blended rate between those two rates to make your overtime rate at a 2080. So I'm just trying to understand how that's gonna work if the days captain has this percentage on top of it. Are you building that into the scale? Because their overtime rate is going to be higher because of that 9.2.
That 9.2 gets them to the annual salary, right?
Not on your proposal, annuals match. And then you had the 9.2 in it. So the annuals don't match. If that was my understanding.
But what do you mean? Where is the 9.2 being added?
Well,
under
we
your
have it built in. That's built in. So can we circle back around this? Because I want to show you something. Is that all right? Because I think it might help
Yeah.
us speak the same language. So I took the chart and I zeroed it out. So this is what the chart looks like if a firefighter, step one, made $1 an hour. I added the Academy firefighter rank. We'll have to be careful how this is worded in a job description, in a job offer, but if a firefighter makes $1 an hour, the firefighter with medic makes $1.17. Then the engineer is kind of weird because we built it off of step two of the firefighter because we agreed that was a more equivalent rank. The ARF is calculated correctly. I added 50 cents to step one. As I've told you, this is a rippling chart. That means when I make a change here, the entire chart updates. You only change one cell to affect the table and it ripples down and across. So moving that back to one because one's an easier number to calculate off of. 50 cents is added here, and then step two is built off of this step, which is the same way we built WOOK in. So I have applied WOOK and ARF the same way. WOOK is built in right here. That's that 1388. That is built in, and step three is built off of step two. That complex calculation is not applied at every step. It ripples from the previous one. So ARF was applied at 50 cents, and then as you increase percentages on your steps, because we've said 3%, 2%, whatever the step movement is, that 50 cents is included in that base. So step 12, that 50 cents was calculated at each percentage increase. So it's applied just same as WOOK, so that is not an error.
Okay.
Now, everything is built off of the red cell. Everything is controlled by what goes in here. So if we did, so every time we would do a table adjustment, we adjust this one cell. So if we did 1%, 1% that goes there and it ripples across everything. Step two is built off of step one. So step three, firefighter with paramedic, is not built off of step three firefighter. It's built off of step two firefighter with paramedic. Steps are built off steps, not the previous grade. The previous grade is built at step 1. So 17% was applied here. And then this percentage comes off of this percentage, not that one. So steps are built off of steps, not the previous rank. The previous rank, it only comes into application at step 1. So that's how the percentages are driven. So that brings me to some questions on your counter 11 revised. I would like to walk through real quick if you don't mind.
Sure.
First, I don't see any language in here asking for the academy firefighter having a different hourly rate of pay, so I will need a revision on this.
Okay.
So if you can get that to me.
Sure.
And then I don't understand, like your fiscal year 26, you have a line at the bottom that says base pay grades F1, 3, 7, 8, 12, and 14. Only step 1 of the base of the grades require a table adjustment. So as I've demonstrated, the table adjustment is done at step 1, grade 1, and it ripples through the rest of the chart. Are you saying I need to change step 1, grade 1, and then each of those ranks additionally?
I think that there's a difference in the way that we're approaching the table build. The requirement that you're stating that you can only adjust one cell and that has to ripple through the whole table, seems to be a preference of yours. And
Yes,
that is not how these tables were built.
So you need to explain to me how you built your tables, because
So
you haven't done that.
The corrective table was built exactly like this.
You mean
But then-
numbers wise,
With formulas and everything. I took everything from your presentation.
okay?
But going forward, when you look at FY25, all we really need to do is take the value at step 1 for FF1, FF3, 7, 8, 12, and 14. And those become a base that no longer need to be dependent upon previous grades. That's just a value at that point. And then from there, you can apply the table adjustments to that value, and that will propagate through the subgrades, like firefighter, paramedic, or ARF. But that actually avoids this problem of a rippling effect for a small change at the top. And that's how we've set it up, and that's what we've requested the changes to be.
So how is step 3 built off of step 2 of a BC?
Step 3 off of step 2 within the grade,
Yeah.
that's the 1.03.
So the problem is, you're working in Excel, I'm working in Excel, but I have to apply it to a system. That means manual chart updates for every grade, every step, if it is not a rippling chart. Right now, I can just adjust it and it takes care of the table. I think with what you're doing, I'm gonna have to manually adjust or have multiple tables, which is hard in a system. That's why we use rippling charts, so we can make one change and it affects everything.
I can see the usefulness of that as far as the table goes, but that seems like that is a property of this that causes more problems than it might solve. Because what you're saying is that like, these changes are affecting things in ways we don't want them to. And so that's why the chart that we provided, that's how it's built. And that's what we would like to see
So,
for each year.
What is the preference of, I guess I don't understand why adjusting ranks individually is better than having a rippling chart. Can you summarize that?
The issue that I believe you were talking about on Tuesday when I was not here, I just watched the video, was that the changes that we had requested to the table, you know,
0.5% for
the-
one,
the
the
quarter
quarter of a
percent.
percent for 1 through 7.
yeah, was going to have a significant impact throughout the whole table. And that's not the intent, but that's a result of your rippling chart setup. That's not the intent of what we're asking for, though. We're asking for them to be applied to the grades individually, which is what we presented. And that's where the problem, I guess, is coming in. We're not looking for the really big change that the rippling chart would appear to show. That's not what we're asking for. We're asking for much smaller changes than that. And I think they're certainly reasonable changes. And I can see how if you're going to apply it with the chart the way it's built, it would appear as though those changes are much larger than reasonable perhaps.
So if you're requesting 0.25% through steps 1 through 7, is step 2 rippling off of step 1, or am I calculating step 2 separately?
Within a grade, the steps are based on the previous step.
So is the
But
0.2,
all that we've done, all that I've done with this, after rebuilding the table, is the dependencies between grades no longer exist. So engineer is no longer dependent on the firefighter.
so step 2 of an engineer is off of step 1 with the 0.25 applied to step 1 and also applied to step 2 on top of the step 1?
The step span has the 0.25 added in 25.
And is that
And
applied independently, or is that applied step 1, then step 2, step 3? So it ripples up the 0.25 per step, additional to off the
So there's a
previous step.
0.25 on the step span, there's the step width that's applied to each one. And then for FY '25, we have a 0 for the table adjustment, so it's starting at the same step 1 values that are on the corrected table. But then as we go forward, the table adjustments, I think the first one that we had was at 1 1/4, that is applied to step 1 within the grade, and it will be reflected throughout the grade, but the grades themselves are not dependent on each other anymore.
So they're just
Like,
absolute
so-
numbers with no tie.
So like how I believe the captain is, on the original table build, I want to say it was 15% over the engineer. I think that might have been the number that was in there. I have to go back and look. So that dependency, the captain's calculation has on the engineer's value doesn't exist anymore. We don't need to keep that.
So traditionally, the fire union has always done, I've never seen a proposal from you, and looking back historically, I've never seen one that negotiates based on position. You do kind of a whole ball of wax. Is your approach to the scale a future indication that you're gonna start negotiating different positions?
I don't know that that's not our intent,
hasn't
and
been a
that's, I don't know that we could say that
Okay,
one way or another, but that's not our intent. No, like our intent, and as I think the charts for FY '25 through '28 show, is that we intend to apply the table adjustments to the whole table. It is applied to every grade. And they're the same adjustment.
all right, have you had a chance to look at our medical counter?
Yes, we have. And we're working on a counter for that.
Do you have anything else?
So, if it's okay, I want to go back to this day captain discussion for a minute. I want to make sure that I understand what you're saying. And is it true that on this chart that,
So that is an
The original.
informational chart, that is not a proposal.
I know, I'm just,
I know, but you guys keep referencing it,
I
and
just
it's
have a
not
question.
the actual proposal.
Yeah, I understand that. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Okay,
So this chart, or whatever chart, the current chart, the 9.2, is it built into their hourly rate?
I believe it is built into the annual, backwards calculated into an hourly.
Okay, so when we are saying that we want to make sure that that 9.2% special assignment pay is kept whole, is it fair to say that it's in there?
So, looking at the one I have up, just because I have it up, and it takes 5 minutes to open a file on this. Line 18, what cell am I on? This shows you that I took, the 9.2 is added in.
Okay.
Which is the days captain, in this example, not the fire prevention captain. Because fire prevention captain, I mimicked the annual salary of a captain, and then I backwards divided it into the 2080. So I believe it only exists on the day's captain on my charts.
The calculations for on this table that we provided, for the fire prevention captain, which we have labeled FF12, is identical to determining the step one.
And I'm not necessarily worried
that's
about the
the same.
tables, I'm worried about what's driving the build of the table. The number is whatever we present on the chart, I just want to understand how you're getting to and why you're including it. I mean, I'm not here to debate the dollars and cents of it. I'm here to make sure I understand the theory behind the build.
So yeah, the 9.2 is included in that hourly rate. It's not, we're not expecting to add 9.2 on top of that.
Okay. That's all we have for now.
Okay. Do we want to have a caucus break and come
Yep.
back? Okay.
Back, and it's 1:01 PM on Friday, June 14th.
All right, so we have a revised, what number is it?
11.
11 for you?
Or at least for you.
No, I have mine.
Thank you.
And the revision is number 19. And we just plugged this slot in there that says add a grade for the firefighter that reflects step one of the FF1. And then we put the calculation in there.
That's the pay grade we came up with as well.
Okay. And then just a point of clarification, this one sure the same firefighter wage for a 40-hour firefighter.
Yep.
You guys have anything for us on our pay?
Not on
Counter.
pay. We were hoping to hear a counter on medical.
So we wanted to get the pay ironed out because we were trying to go along with what you were saying, is get the pay one thing at a time. We didn't want to go down all of these paths.
So you're going to enjoy this next statement. I need a medical set so I know how much I can spend on pay. Because with your counters, it takes a long time to cost something out. I have to do it manually. So medical, we're not that far apart. We're actually closer there than we are on compensation. So I was hoping we could at least get feedback on our proposal where we split the difference between our 6.24 and your 8 to the 7.12.
So we have something, but we really wanted to understand the impact of the pay plan before we bring that out.
And I don't know how much I can spend on the pay plan because I don't know how much to earmark for benefits. I feel like we're in a chicken and an egg situation here.
Jeff, we can.
I think we could come back and bring you
Before we do that, Jared needs to touch base briefly on fact finding.
Yeah, today's just the last day to exchange that information on those commission members. So just, it doesn't need to be on the record, but I just wanted to make sure that we didn't all end the day and go our
Forget about
separate
it.
ways and forget to do that, so.
I will email that to you with contact information.
Okay, great. And we'll get a handout for you as well that has that information.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be back.
Yeah.
I have a question. So we have a kind of a civilian job scale kind of built. How do you want to proceed with that? Do you want us to bring you back something that shows the civilian scale?
However you would like to proceed with that, I'm willing to entertain.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll be back shortly.
And we're back.
218.
2:18. We might need those extra 2 hours though.
He's going there.
All right, we have a proposal for you, or a counter proposal, or proposal. We'll call it number 12. I think that's where we're at.
Sounds right. Marisa will tell us if we're wrong.
All right, we have created a package deal here. Bullet point number 1, both parties will agree to the union's most current pay proposal, number 11, that was delivered on today's date, 6/14.
The revised afternoon one, right?
That is correct.
Okay. But just making sure I'm working off the right one.
That is correct, yep. Most current, revised one. With the following stipulations, the lieutenant position will be removed for now. We like the concept of the lieutenant position. We feel like it's a lot for us to deal with right now. We agree to address the lieutenant in an open meeting that will be scheduled, and the details will be listed further down here. We're going to keep the fire prevention captain, currently referred to as the day captain, as is in pay and job duties. The union will agree to remove the paramedic stipend for the fire prevention captain. However, when an employee with a paramedic stipend moves into the position, they'll be placed on the scale based on their current pay. That includes the paramedic stipend. And then acceptance of the union's day staff employee scale, which we will get to here in a second. Acceptance of the union's healthcare proposal as described on page 2 in your packet there. Current job descriptions will stay in SOG form. The union agrees to meet in April of 2025 to discuss job descriptions for all the positions to be entered into the contract via MOU during this session. The union agrees to discussions concerning the lieutenant position. Items that are to be considered in this discussion are pay, job description, and promotional process of the lieutenant position. And then all other proposals will be removed from the table. Moving on to the day staff pay proposal. Well, I guess we could talk about, I'll let you look at our medical coverage counter.
Can I go back with a question real quick?
Sure.
All other proposals will be removed from the table. All other union proposals?
All other proposals
From both sides.
from both sides.
Okay, just make sure I understood what it meant.
So all other open proposals.
Correct.
Correct.
Would you like us to speak to our counter on the healthcare?
If you'd like to.
Scott?
All right, so this one is moving a little bit more in the direction of your last counter. For the remainder of 2024, we'll keep things as is with the same, having the city have the same responsibility for insurance premiums they currently have right now. Beginning in 2025, the responsibility will increase to a maximum of 7.12% over what the city is covering right now. Going forward from there, the maximum for the city, maximum liability will be 8% over the previous year's maximum.
Over the city's maximum or this plan's maximum?
The amount listed in the tables, which is the city's maximum. So, as you can see here, the note kind of spells it out, but 2025 max is 7.12% over the previous column, which is the 2024 amount, and then the 2026 max is 8% over 2025, 2027 is 8% over that, 2028 is 8% over 2027. Again, so either the amount in the table or the actual premium, whichever's less for the year. And these are, I think, incredibly fair numbers, especially in the insurance market. These increases seem to be generally unheard of. So we've kept ours quite low, and we intend to stick with that number.
Any questions on that one?
Nope.
Okay, moving on, we've attached some scales, kind of like we did with the line personnel proposal. This is for our day staff. We have coded them in a grade different from what you had them. We kind of made our own grade, fire administration. We don't care what they're called, but as long as the scale represents what we have here. You want to talk to that? How you built that?
These tables are built the same as the line personnel tables that we handed over earlier today. And this is consistent with the written proposal that went with those for all bargaining unit members. So we've added a 0.25% to the step span for steps 1 through 7 in 2025 with a 0% increase to the table. And then in 2026, we have a 1.25% increase to the table, no changes in step span. 2027, we add the 0.25% to the remaining steps 8 through 12 and have a 1.75% increase to the table. And then in 2028, have a 2.25% to the table.
That will be our proposal number 12.
So what happens with civilian longevity?
That'll be rolled into the pay just like the line personnel's been
So
discussed
you're
so far.
releasing longevity on those positions?
Yes. Yeah, it'll be, they'll be placed on a scale just as the line personnel are intended to be placed. Taking into account those ad pays and figuring out their current hourly.
Well, I can see we're both down to, let's lump them together and see what we can get done. We're in the same boat. So this gives me some working room on some of my numbers. I need about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I also have our fact finder information.
Back and it's 3:06. Considerably longer than the 15 minutes I said I needed. I am sorry. It happens. Trust me, I know. So we obviously have a counter, and I'm going to walk you through the counter before I hand it off because it's long. But because I've included some of the language that has to change in the CBA for some of these items. So it's not that bad, but I'm going to walk you through the high level stuff. So this is our counter 6 to your counter 12 plus parts of your 11 revised B. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the good news is I'm going to start on things we agree with because I like those. There aren't enough of them. We're moving to an hourly rate of pay. I assume Marisa wants one too.
Eventually.
We are removing firefighter staff longevity. We're moving to a step and grade table for firefighter positions. We've renamed driver operator to engineer. We've eliminated a probationary second class firefighter. We've renamed the first class firefighter to firefighter. We have added an academy firefighter position, which we also called the FS0, with a note that upon completion of the academy, the position will move to the firefighter 1, step 1, paid the annual hours of $29.12. I didn't put any other steps in our table proposal for that because it's less than 2 months, right? Okay. So now we're moving on to the WOOC, but we've added something to the WOOC collapsed sections, which we didn't talk about before and we did not catch until today. So we collapsed the firefighter to ambulance and the firefighter to driver operator, and we collapsed the driver operator to captain. But we had a lingering problem of paramedic to captain. So we have addressed that. We addressed it we added 2.94%, but really it's that little complex calculation that shows in the cell, to firefighter with paramedic step 7. So So you have a WOOC step there now. When you look at the table, anything that has WOOC applied will be a yellow highlight. So we missed that going forward. Also included on that is completion of the company officer certification is an expectation of the position at step 7 and will be built into the job description. ARF, I added clarification so that it, just everyone understands it applied like WOOC, it's based off step 1. Days captain special assignment is built into base and is no longer an additional percentage applied to base. So then I'm up to 10 now. Placement on the base table. So we did like you, we have a base table and then we have 4 tables, 25, 26, 27, 28, is based off of current base wage, current longevity, and current paramedic pays. Increases each fiscal year will be applied at step 1 of firefighter 1. Paramedic stipend, we still need language included in the job descriptions that talks about what that entails. And that has to be done at the time the stipend goes into place. We expanded language on the paramedic function. We have attached city proposal 23 as part of this. What happens if we lose the ambulance contract? That stipend is immediately discontinued. Update all ranks of firefighter job descriptions do include as an appendix. Job descriptions must include language on paramedic stipend and physical requirements. We agreed to rename the days captain to a fire prevention captain rank, which has the same annual pay as the fire captain. And then there's 9.2 built into base wage and is no longer listed as a special assignment pay. This position is not eligible for a paramedic stipend on a daily basis and only when it is worked. It is a minimum, remains a 2-year commitment. Promotion pay, employees who are promoted into a new position will have 5% added to their currently hourly rate and then go to the next step. So if it's halfway in between, it has to be above that. Stipend amounts are only applied if going to another rank with a stipend level. If there is no stipend on the new rank the employee is being promoted into, the employee will be placed on the standard rank amount and then 5% will be applied. These employees will serve a 12-month introductory period. We split demotions to kind of meet you in the middle. A voluntary demotion, they would return to their previous step placement and their previous, their step placement. But if it's involuntary, it goes to a 3. So if it's for discipline. So one thing to understand there, and the only example I have, and I'm sure you have better ones than me, is if you're an assistant, if you become an assistant chief and you step back down as a BC or a captain, that's usually what I would see. You don't get steps for the years you were outside of it. You return to the step you held at the rank. Okay? So then base pay for firefighters.
Quick question on that. So the voluntary and the involuntary for discipline makes sense. How would you handle reduction in force? So it would be involuntary but not for discipline.
We would handle it under, we would have to amend language under layoffs.
Okay.
I feel that that's handled under layoffs, not handled under demotions, because it's not a demotion.
Okay.
That's a good point, though. I'll add it to the giant list of things we still have to consider. Okay. Okay, now for what we want to do with the firefighter tables. So we have the 5 tables. We did placement for 24 base wage, longevity, and paramedic pay with no market adjustment for the base, clearly. Then for 25, you're at your step based on the base, and we would increase 1.5%. And then for 26, 27, and 28, we will do 1 step for employees not at max and an additional 1.5 to firefighter 1, step 1. Each year. Now, base pay for civilian staff, we have a new section in here. We left them on their current structure, converted them to hourly, put in 4 years and applied the same percentage as we gave to the fire table. Intent to negotiate, so number 20, it consolidated city original 22. Medical coverage program, we maintained at 7.12 for 25 and 26, and we increased for 27 and 28 to 7.62. The HRA prorate remains in there. We removed the mandatory employee contribution and the vacation payout. I didn't get much feedback from you on that. And then acceptance of the proposal will result in the city withdrawing 13, 18, 7, 12, and revised 2, and the union pulling proposal 3, 4, counter 9, 7, and your 5. And then everything after that is language that has to be adjusted, that is immediately tied to what we just talked about.
And are those proposed numbers all of the open
No,
items? Aside from the ones that have to be adjusted, there's still other ones that are
there are
open?
still items on the table.
Okay.
Now you're talking about the 1.5% being applied to step one firefighter. That is in the table that you have where everything's dependent upon.
It's a
that, so-
rippling chart. As you're going through it, you'll notice on page 6, we address Article 10, which is longevity. Because we've already TA'd on bilingual, I renamed that longevity and addressed that portion of the contract only to day/civilian staff.
Does that have any questions? Okay, we're gonna caucus.
I'm guessing there will be questions coming back. It is 5:07 PM.
Okay.
Yeah, I just got both.
Even the computer's tired.
Yeah, tuckered out.
Go over your notes here. We're gonna start here, right? Nope. Go here. Here, it doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. You can go 1, 2, 3, or just go through. Explain this one. We just had a question about, city proposal 8, and.
Not C.
or-
Not A.
Oh, sorry.
Number 8.
Number 8 in this,
Okay.
in this
Yeah.
proposal, sorry. Is the academy pay concurrent with grade firefighter 1, FF1, and step 1 of a firefighter? Our intent was to.
At the 2080, not the 2912.
Yeah, just the time is concurrent.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks.
So, do we wanna address this one, or do we want to ask the question that is
You can go to 3 if you want. Put the first one in there.
do you still want the formula?
Is that what we had?
This one is just this strike.
Sorry, we have a lot of questions here we're trying to
Well,
wade through.
we figured you would, so this is
second
what we
one
planned.
is
Oh,
This strike.
yeah, but we haven't given this to them yet.
Oh, okay, yeah, we should probably move to 3 then.
Do you want that?
The formulas.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for information, I mean, looking through these sheets, everything looks pretty close to what we're getting, but if you have a file to share, so we can look at the formulas, or a printout that just has the formulas in the cells.
Which
that
would you
be-
prefer?
Honestly, a file would be easiest.
That's at that computer. Because it's
Right,
open
yeah,
on
that's
that
okay.
computer.
And then is there any way, so we have a question on number 15. As far as promotional pay goes, is there any way that you could pull up a scale and show us what it would look like if like a driver paramedic were to promote into the fire prevention captain spot?
So I can just walk you through it if you have a chart.
A
here,
driver
Andy.
medic into a captain medic. We just want it visually because it's hard to understand the
Yeah,
words. Yeah.
then that's why we are talking a lot. So if you had, I'm just gonna use the base, because it's the first one.
Okay.
So if you took a engineer with paramedic step 3 at that 2540,
Yep.
and you want them to promote where?
To a captain with paramedic.
To a captain with paramedic, they
Fire
would,
prevention captain.
Oh, okay.
so fire prevention captain, their base rate would be the 2309 and 5% would come off that. Because there's no equivalent for it to go into.
So you would take the 2309, add 5% to that, and then place them in the next step.
We would place them at the step in captain, yeah, they covered the 5%. The fire prevention captain.
Gotcha.
Now, if they were going from engineer with paramedic to captain with paramedic, we would go off the paramedic because the stipend applies in both positions.
That'll take 30 seconds. Take a minute.
We can take a minute if you guys want to sit and look at it.
Yeah, just a minute.
And you would, because the fire prevention captain is 2080, you would convert them to the engineer with paramedic to 2080 rate, correct? And then place them.
Without paramedic.
That is part of the discussion that we would have to have. Obviously, wherever they place coming off that chart, they're gonna be to step 1. Because the 2912 to the 2080, those difference in hours, front loads the day captain. Sorry, I'm having trouble shifting with the names.
I know what you're saying.
So what we would have to talk about is, do we take theirs and move them into the annual and then divide that by the 2080 to get the 5% application, which is what I would feel would be the best method. But I couldn't use that paramedic stipend, but we could convert them to a 2080 hourly and then do the placement on the day's captain.
Okay. So really, either way, whether you had your engineer with paramedic or not, you would need to be deep into the scale before you
If
even
we
triggered
just-
step 2.
If we converted hourly to hourly, yes. But if we converted the 2912 to the 2080 and did the 5% off that, it would be different.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Let me say it one more time.
Yep. Trust me, it's really hard to come up with every nuance that we have to address here. So let's say you're an engineer paramedic making the 2466, which is step 2. I would take that times your annual to 2912, and then we would backwards divide that by 2080 to get the same apple to apple. And
If
then
they were
you-
moving into the fire prevention.
only into the fire prevention captain.
Okay. All right.
And it's just, again, these are some of the nuances we need to talk through together, how we think that works best.
She just said she wouldn't use that.
But that would only be for a position going into the fire prevention rank. But it's also the only position that doesn't have the paramedic stipend equivalent.
Yeah, that's the only one that's kind of tricky.
Yeah, it's
though.
weird.
It's like one of those small,
It's an oddity
Yeah.
in the table. But yeah, we would look at, that would be the preferred method, but I don't know, again, I don't know how you guys are gonna respond to what we bring, so we just bring it and hope we can talk.
what we found is there's, and I'm sure you've found this too, is there's so many what ifs and what have yous. It's hard to nail down exactly, it's.
With this big a change, there's always gonna be a few individual loser type situations.
Yeah.
There's a few situations we just can't address ahead of time. And the outcome isn't always ideal, but they are very limited. It is not your overall head count that isn't seeing that impact, but there will be some negative repercussions anytime you do a shift this big. There's just no possible way to address them all.
We understand that.
But yeah, it's hard. Like, we bring you language, we hope we can talk about it. This is a good description, a good example of how walking through it, and I think we have a combined understanding of how that would look.
Okay, so I was half listening there and half not, so I was trying to calculate here.
I expect a verbatim
Yeah.
summary
Okay, so again, an engineer, medic,
would drop to the grade engineer at the same step.
and then you would slot
Times
them.
it times 2912 to get an annual, divide it by 2080 to get a 2080 hourly rate, and then place them on the fire prevention cap.
Okay, so I think that, I don't know where the breakover is, but looking at the two extremes of the scale, the lower steps, just the promotion to captain from engineer would still result in an increase in pay.
It should hypothetically.
Even though there's the loss of the 10% stipend for the medic.
Hypothetically.
But as you get closer to the end of the engineer scale, it looks like, like a step 12 engineer with medic, if they promoted and they promoted into the fire prevention captain position, they would lose money.
But they would reduce hours. That's part of the problem. You have a scale that has two different hours thresholds on it. There's no
Yes.
way to address it.
Yes, part of the problem is that our system right now too, and it's good because this position always gets filled, but sometimes, if that's the position open for promotion, then that is, people may be pushed into it and pushed into a lower pay. And I think that's kind of the idea we were discussing earlier about keeping the fire prevention captain pay equal to the shift captain. Also, if people are going to promote into it, a promotion shouldn't result in a loss of pay, right? So would we be able to move them in if that's the case at least their current pay, so there is no loss of pay?
No, because the scale doesn't exist in that method.
I do know there's a language in the contract that says that advancement rank or promotion
Will not result in a decrease of pay.
will not result in a decrease in pay.
Then I would say that language has to be struck unless you have a counter that makes sense, but I can't build a scale that addresses every situation. If you max on one grade and then you want to move up and you're dropping 1,000 hours, but the annual's been maintained and you're losing the stipend, you no longer have the stipend. I can't get around that. I can't pay you for something you're not doing.
maybe something we're gonna have to discuss a little bit more.
Tell me when you got out. We'll step outside for a minute.
Was that?
Tell me when you figured your math, and we'll step outside.
Yeah,
We're gonna step outside for a minute.
So we're going into caucus. And we're back. It's 5:26 PM.
Okay, so I have one more question as far as moving people. Can you describe how a captain with their medic would move into fire prevention? Or into the fire prevention role?
Same way.
Explain it.
Yep, stipend doesn't apply. You'd take their annual and divide it into 20/80, and that's how you'd get their rate. And it would be like a lateral,
Okay,
because it's the same rate.
so as far as the driver paramedic being slotted into the fire prevention captain spot, fundamentally, we can't agree to somebody losing money over on a promotion. So for them to lose pay to promote is not something that we can get behind.
Okay,
However, we do have some other things
well, I figured
in our counter proposal that we can give you.
that'd be great.
Okay. You wanna give it to them?
What, do we need to strike that first?
Let's keep moving on. Thank you.
And so just, I guess, so we're all clear, if we are able to come to an agreement on, say, this county proposal, we still would need to address how those promotions would happen. Like Jordan said, we cannot agree with that method of promoting.
Didn't you just
Into fire
give me a
prevention.
counter that should address that?
We wanted clarification on it.
Okay.
We can take it back and
No,
And
let's
fix
go
that
through what we got.
If,
we can take it back and fix that, or we can
If we
just.
wanna make progress.
I'll make a note.
Okay.
yes, but that will have to be addressed separately.
Okay, so going through, I'm sorry that it didn't get printed in color.
That's fine.
I'll try to go through the stuff that we changed here. So under 9C, completion of company officer certificate. The way that we currently do it right now is you have to complete a portfolio.
Yep.
The next section that we made changes to is 13. We removed all ranks of firefighter rule of 80. So it would say update all job descriptions.
Okay,
Catch me if I miss something. What is it? To ask about that. Oh, and can we get a little bit of clarification on the physical requirements?
so that's the biggest issue we have with the firefighter job descriptions, and it's through many elements of administration, even on a federal level. If we have an ADA claim come in, which the employees have the right to file. Your job descriptions don't list physical requirements. So when their doctor looks at them to give them a certification, it doesn't say what the physical requirements of the position are.
So you're looking for the language that says things like
Yes.
regularly lifts 25 pounds, sometimes 75. I think those are
Yep.
roughly
The
the numbers you had in
SCB,
there.
the gear you wear, all of that needs to be in there.
Okay, but
Not
do
so
we-
much the fit for duty aspect. of
It's
it.
not the fit for duty, it's what you have to
Okay.
physically do and wear because of your equipment to cover that.
Okay.
And we run into it a lot with issues.
Moving down, we're good with 16 and 17. We're good with 18. On 19, we struck that scale and we've attached it on the back.
Okay.
We feel like we still would like to have that originally presented scale for our day staff.
Did that?
Did it get put on? It did on theirs.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep.
Do you have that scale that, so this is your, the scale that you presented initially, the city's?
We've just expanded it. Well. I
No,
mean,
that's
over
not
and
what the
above.
city presented.
So the scale that you guys have in front of you is a copy of the general pay scale, but just the grades that apply to the day staff. And the step span is the same as the city's, and so it's very close to your original presentation for the day staff. The main change on there is that the two positions slotted at the G6 have been moved to a G7. The rest remain in the same positions that were originally proposed. And then we would like the same 1.5% per year table adjustments applied to that table that were offered for the line personnel. And I don't know that it's spelled out directly, but I know we've talked about placement on that scale, including current base pay plus longevity,
Plus
all
longevity.
that rolled into a current hourly rate and then placement.
Same placement as firefighters then.
Yeah, so
Yes.
placement on
24
that,
wage plus, in your guys' case, paramedic longevity,
Yeah.
and theirs doesn't have the
just
paramedic.
longevity.
Okay.
And then of course the 1.5% adjustment at FY 25,
Okay,
and then the 1.5 each year going forward.
okay,
On number 20, we removed March 15th and added May 15th.
okay.
And then 18, Scott?
Yes. Okay, so we are continuing to move a little closer here. We did adopt your numbers of 7.12 for 25 and 26, and then 7.62 for 27 and 28.
Sorry, which one am I supposed to be looking at?
There should be a
Back
replacement
page.
Yep,
table.
very back
page.
Yeah. So we've adopted those percentages for this counter. However, we have included again just the overall maximums that the city would be responsible for each year. And I think this is important because, you know, we've had this insurance for 7 years now, and we've been consistently very low on our annual increases, generally well under the limits that have been included in the contracts previously. And every year that we come in underneath those limits, you know, it's good for our members, but it's also really good for the city because there's significant savings happening there when we're coming in multiple percentage points below the limit. And year after year after year, we have these low rates
that are, in the end, just primarily benefits to the city's bottom line. But we don't really get any benefit from that when it comes to a year like last year where we were slightly over the limit. And so this doesn't necessarily allow us to go over any limits that are set here, but it does allow for, if we're really, really good for a couple of years, we have 1 year that's slightly over, it doesn't end up impacting the amounts that employees are paying. And so, again, this is super fair. This spells out exactly what the city's liability would be for 4 years down the road. Should make budgeting fairly easy.
Or less.
Yeah, or less. This is max. Of course, we wouldn't try to collect the max. We would, if the premiums are lower than that, obviously all we need is the premiums.
So the difference between our proposal and your proposal is you've listed that is an increase over the max, not the city actual paid premium.
Yes, the previous year's maximum. Yes.
Okay, I understand.
So, and again, that's just but we have gone with the 712, 712, and then 762, 762.
Okay.
And you can see what the maximum liability would be in 2028 and know well ahead of time what that is.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to, I believe it is 21. We have added down at the bottom paragraph, right before that bullet point right there, or sorry, and it will be on the bullet point. For October to December of 2024, each bargaining unit member will receive a one-time contribution of $250. This payment will be the second payroll of October 24. So with this, we're trying to capture those 3 months of that VIBA payment that we would be missing, moving the VIBA payment into January.
Okay. Isn't 3 months? October.
And that is based just on the table here, 3 months and 250.
Okay. Okay.
Just for a point of clarification, which proposals will you still have on the table?
We will have 2, 3. Can I just tell you what they are and not give you
Yes, you
numbers?
can.
Okay.
Yes.
Application of Article 1, what applies, handbook, CBA, SOGs. Then the benefits listed in the handbook that you currently enjoy but are not referenced as something that's applicable.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm thinking. The promotional language. And the federal policies, ADA harassment, bullying, that proposal.
Okay.
It's long.
And then, obviously, job descriptions is lumped in.
Job descriptions, please let us come to a TA on this today. I figure we would meet in July and August to hack out the job descriptions because there's no financial impact to those.
Okay.
They've already been determined.
Okay. Okay.
So is that the one that's the same ones we figured, right?
I really don't want to stay here tonight to do job descriptions.
That's what
Are
we,
you
that's
sure?
what we thought too.
Are you sure?
I'm really, really sure.
We're just getting going.
No, we're not.
Down in the subsequent sections here, we found a few things. Let's see if I can find them that I would just like to bring to attention. Everything looked, for the most part, looked okay. We struck
The bilinguality.
the
Sorry,
longevity section just because we would like that other pay scale.
Okay.
We changed the March 15th to May 15th.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that one, just so you know.
Yeah, can I ask why?
So we have our promotionals that are in March, which occupies a lot of our time. A lot of us are preparing for that. So that takes up a lot of our time cutting into preparing for negotiations. There was one other thing, Austin.
Taxes.
We've, every year is different, I think, but historically, it seems that starting too early, you come to the table with questions about what the tax base even looks like for the year, and you're still waiting on information from like the state and stuff.
We get that in September.
And
And we always have it in
We get
March and
AIC
ready to-
estimates, but those are not firm, and we don't get any property tax definitive numbers until after we've had our public hearing and published.
Okay.
So March is gonna be tough. I mean, that's promotional time. Is there a compromise
How
that you
about
see?
April 1st? April Fool's Day. Seems very indicative of this process.
We suggested March 15th because that's the starting. That doesn't mean the meetings start right away. That
Because
usually
that
means they
puts us
start.
to March 10th, 25th, because you have 10 days to respond, and then we offer dates. We figured we'd have an April, opening in April.
Early April, yeah.
Okay.
Because I understand promotions and taxes, but we're also neck deep in an entire city budget build starting in May. So May and June are atrocious.
Well, we could probably discuss that a little more if you guys need some time to look at this.
I do, I'm gonna counter and I'm gonna add in language to address the layoff demotion thing, just so we have it as we discussed. And I'll look at what you brought. If you guys can discuss the date, that would be nice.
We can do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we're in caucus again. What time it is? My watch died. 8 o'clock. All right, it's 8 o'clock PM. The city has a counter. For those of you that want the calculations on the little yellow cells, here it is. For the rest of you, you get normal size sheets of paper.
Yours?
She has hers. All right, so to make this tracking a little bit easier, any of our changes I highlighted in pink and the font is in white, so you can read it. But I'm gonna quickly run you through what those are once you get it handed out. On page 1, under 9CI, the SOG is called the certification, so we left certification and portfolio to make us both happy. On page 2, we ran into the same problem we've been having into, which is the fire prevention rank. I can't get it on the chart the way it's built. So I dropped the holiday payout at 5%, not the 5.5 that we've agreed to, so it's only an impact of 5. And we built 4.2 into base. The little teeny graphic below shows how that calculation was implied. We did add section D under 14, which says employees promoting with a paramedic stipend will have their stipend pay included in the 5% promotion calculation. So basically I split what we both wanted there and we each got part. Then under 16, I added language to say employees impacted by a layoff will fall under the voluntary demotion category, so there won't be any punitive damage to the employee delivered. Going on to page 3, so this is your firefighter pay. It looks really short, it's not. The next 3 pages are the subsequent pay scales for the duration of the contract. Then page 4 is your civilian pay, day staff pay. That shows the pay grades they fall in, and then their pay chart is on the following page. Then on page 5 is medical and the intent to negotiate. So upon 20, we moved to April 1st. And then for the medical coverage program, we resubmitted our last submission, which was the 7.12, 7.12, 7.62, 7.62. On HRA on page 6, we added that the January 25 payment will be $1,250 for all active members. After 25, it will revert to the 1,000. So there's only going to be 1 deposit rather than 2. Adding section D, this has been on my list for about 9 months, and I just forgot to bring it every time. Your guys' vision is covered through your medical costs. You do have members who are enrolling in the city's vision plan, which is driving up our benefit expense. So if an employee would choose to enroll, they would have to pay the full premium of the city plan for vision. I think those are the biggies. Those are the biggies. have an error there. So did I address your concern on the layoffs appropriately? Do we feel that that was fair? I didn't want it to be punitive and I wasn't sure how to write it, so I just lumped it in there.
It sounds okay.
And I'm not aware of layoffs we've done, so if you have any guidance that can give me help there that I need to clarify, I'm happy to hear it. 14D was a request of you. 14A was a request of us. Base pay on fire didn't shift, other than the fire prevention captain, which I highlighted in light blue on the charts. The pink cell is where the percentage is applied. The yellow cells are where the WOOC is applied. We kept with the FF numbering system for your civilians, so when we sort employees, all of the fire staff will line up, so we don't have to go hunt them down through X's or, so it keeps it rolling. Their base files listed on the top there, sorry, the hole punch ate a piece of that. Other than that, those are the changes, except for page 6.
So 14B, on page 2, and that just clarifies there, if they come work overtime, they go to a 2912. Is that addressing that? Am I reading that
Sorry,
correctly?
say that again.
So if the fire prevention captain, so it says the position's not eligible for the medic stipend on a daily basis. This position will log time in the fire prevention captain. Grade only for the employee is actually worked.
Yes.
It's on a daily basis, so that's an impact. If they do overtime, they go back to the 2912.
So they would be paid the hourly rate that it shows here.
Captain with paramedic.
The fire prevention captain with paramedic,
Okay,
which is FF12.
okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and venture out that we probably need a caucus.
Yep.
Does have any more questions?
Okay.
We'll have a look. Thank you.
No 2 p.m.
All right, so we're gonna go through your counter proposal. We'll talk about it for a second and then we'll move on from there. We're good to the change to C1 or CI.
Okay,
14, we're good with that one.
okay,
14D, we're good with that one.
okay.
16. Sorry. On 15, however, we struck the language, and I'll give you this in our counter proposal. That, let's see where we strike from.
So
The
it-
stipend amounts that are only applied after another rank. With the stipend level, if there's no stipend in the new rank, the employee is promoted into the employee will be placed on the standard rank amount, 5% will be applied. That's what we struck out of that one.
Okay, go through that again, what you struck.
So there's the two sentences in 15 there, in the middle. Starting in the second sentence, the two there, they seem to be corrected by 14D.
Okay,
And so it's just removing them for clarification. So I think that what you guys brought for 14D addressed that. But then
Okay.
they were kind of contradictory.
okay.
And no changes to anything else. So we're good, Nick. we're good with 19.
Sorry, did you say no changes to the 16 change?
It was the layoff, demotion. Okay.
No change to that.
Okay.
19, good with that. However, we did notice that there was a snafu in, they've been trying to get me to say this.
Snafu, how much, is it like a meow situation?
Something like that. Just in the FF32, and we just think it might have just been a rushed miscalculation.
No, just
Like a
copying the
copy
formula
formula.
across.
The
Which
steps are
grade?
the same.
FF32.
They're the same for all 4 years. But
But
We
it's
understand
not,
it.
I mean, we realize that.
Yeah,
I
if you
think
look at,
we're all on the same page that the intent is for it to be the 1.5%
Yeah.
for each table. So,
What
Which
scale?
scale?
so it's on FF32 in each of the scales. It looks like the base file for steps 2 through 12 was just copied into each one.
No,
without
step one's
adjustment.
right.
You are correct, yeah.
But each year is. And I think the other grades are fine. It's probably just a miss
That's
copy
when
paste.
my Excel collapsed.
Yeah.
My Excel collapsed.
But you understand the intent there in that.
Yes.
I think we're all
Yeah,
on the
we
same
agree
page,
to that.
so, yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, obviously, we'll verify all the tables here as soon as we can, but I think we're on the
And
same
then-
page with the intent there.
And then skipping 20 and 21 for a second. We're good with the last, or the section B there under the HRA.
Section B, what?
Sorry, what did I say? The changes that were made to section B and then adding D.
Okay.
I think that was all there. I'll go ahead and give you our counter proposal. Feel like we're getting close.
Yeah.
Getting
Great, thank you.
close. Talk to this one.
Sure. All right. Okay, so I believe at the top of your copies there, we have a insurance table. So this is, again, moving more towards the middle. We're looking for the end of 2024 or the first 3 months of FY '25, October to December, essentially resetting to zero, where we had been in the past, and having the city cover our actual premiums. We believe that will amount to somewhere around a total of $9,000. That's about what the difference has been for us for the insurance bills we've been paying. And then moving forward into 2025, having the 7.12% increase over that amount. Then going through 26, 27, and 28, we've stuck with the same percentage increases that we had the previous couple of proposals, the 712, 762, and 762. But we have left the language in about city-covered rates for each of those years. There is a
Down below that.
note below that we'll offer up the $1,500 recreation money for the 4 years of the contract to offset some of the cost for the October to December coverage.
And then we added a change to number 4. That change to number 4 is to include all bargaining unit job descriptions in the CBA.
So the way it's written, we would review the Rule of 80 job descriptions that you gave us, but include them all into the CBA.
Sorry, that's a change to what?
Yeah.
13.
Number
13. You said 4, I think.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I misnumbered it.
It's supposed to be item 13, not item 4.
At this point, it's,
Yeah.
Okay. It's the update all ranks of firefighter rule of 80 that. The rec money, the intent is to sunset the dedication of that money for this application, and then we would the money would go back to us after that, so it'd be a total of $6,000, yeah.
So for the term of the contract,
Yes.
but then it would just be open at that point anyway, right?
Yeah, it's all open, but
Yeah.
that's the intent, is to not relinquish it, essentially.
Yes, it would be
You're
open.
preserving the right to bring it back to the table next.
It would be,
Yeah.
it would remain, as language in the contract instead of being removed, I guess. So,
But it's ineffective throughout the term of the contract, so you always have the right to bring it back next time anyway.
Yeah.
But we're saying the same thing, just
Yeah.
different.
yeah.
Fair enough.
I just wanted to
Then-
say it more.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I think Scott and I agree on something for once, because I think there's a difference. We either strike the language, or are they saying they're gonna add this into that section of the CBA? Because that's like negotiating for the next contract, which is not in effect. And I don't think we should do that.
Well,
Yeah.
the ultimate effect is that it's not part of this 4-year contract, but it doesn't revive it at the next contract.
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand. Are you striking that whole section, or are you adding this as a section to that?
I think the intent was to add the language that would dedicate that money for the 4 years, but having that as part of the contract going into our negotiations, hopefully in 4 years, then it exists already, so it doesn't have to be brought back. It can then just be negotiated at that point.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Then we just added that 21 in there with the language that we struck out of that was clarified by the section above.
Okay,
We added verify accuracy of the tables. I'm sure that goes without saying.
okay, we need a caucus.
One more thing. We changed the date of intent to April 15th.
Okay. I keep looking. This is not working for me. Marisa, you ready? All right, it's 9:38 PM.
Want to go through or pass out first?
You can pass out as I explain. So on page 2, we accepted your number 13, adjusting it to say update all bargaining unit job descriptions. We struck the sentences under promotion pay. I fixed my snafu in the civilian pay. Pay scale checks subject to a day different than this one.
Fair enough.
We accepted your medical for October, November, and December of fiscal year 25 of calendar year 24 months. However, we left number 20 at intends to negotiate no later than April 1st. And then we amended your language about the physical training and recreation check. We just struck that section A of Article 19.
Okay.
And one other change,
Okay.
and it's just for full transparency. On page 6 and the top of page 7, we reworded the city will withdraw. We said we included our number 18 rather than saying we were withdrawing it.
Oh,
It was the HRA prorate.
okay.
We wanted to make sure that we said that correctly.
Give us just one minute.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Okay, we gave our proposal to you to say update the rule of 80 and include all. This says update all. We're okay with this?
We will include all job descriptions in there.
Updating all of them?
And you wanna update all of them?
including. Okay, okay,
We're happy to keep them all together. We prefer that too.
okay, cool.
And that's not gonna happen tonight, just for the record, right?
Copy that.
Then
I just
yes, we
wanted
are
to-
happy to do that in July.
Okay, clarify, because we wrote it in a different way, so.
We're gonna step.
Hold on just a second.
Yep, let's just go down there.
Yeah, that's our portion.
Okay, just wanted to double check.
This one.
Just double checking.
Good.
Take your minute.
Go ahead.
I don't even have my notebook anymore.
Oh, Ken's gonna want to open the chair in the door.
No, it's in my office.
Ken's on 21, is your intent to have this reflect the language that is provided in the FY '25 section, or is it the chart?
Well, I think they both apply. The city's portion of the October through 24 rates is the full rate. So it would be 7.12% of those months. The increase would come off those.
Okay, and I think that's what we are looking for, but since we've been looking at these numbers quite a bit, I think the
Did I miss the
third column
25?
is the 7.12 over the first column and not the second.
Hold on, I gotta find it.
The language reflects that.
The language reflects it, but sometimes things are not meshing.
Yeah, we're just making sure that the chart is also supposed to reflect that.
It is getting late.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's,
I got it.
right, okay.
Hold on, I gotta do some maths.
I believe our last proposal had all the numbers crunched, if you're interested in that.
Oh, Eric, we're gonna see how good I can run a calculator this late at night.
Marathon.
It should be.
So I come up with 636.84, 1391.23, 1038.58, 1249.88, 1792.98, and 2004.24. Because we're all mathing on our phones.
Those sound better. Yes.
Good.
Initial.
Yep.
Okay, now that my math matches my words.
Okay. Marcus?
What's up? Yes. That all match. Could you just read the last three again? The bottom three?
1249.88,
Yep.
1792.98,
Yes.
2004.24.
Yeah, that's correct.
Good, Austin?
I didn't have it on here.
Okay. Are you
Thought
good
you
though?
Yep.
Okay. Let me back to the start here.
By the way, this was city counter 8.
We will accept this.
It's also
We'll-
TA
we will-
number 11.
We will TA this.
I don't even know what day it is.
It's after midnight.
It's not the 15th yet, so.
Not yet. I initialed the changes. We all manually calculated on our phones, even though we all have a computer with us. And since we're here, I have one more. There's still some of them.
One of these mine.
No, I have yours in my hand. Again, I didn't know what to name this one at this point. So we pulled almost all of ours off the table. We said we had a couple left. I wanted to walk through 2 of those and pull the third. So this is city proposal 3/9. So there are sections of the handbook that we've either never applied to because we haven't been in the situation since the policy's been in place. Or bone marrow is an example. Also, death benefit, I don't have any records going far enough back to know if we've utilized that benefit. The new bereavement leave policy, funeral participation, retirement gift is currently applied. Workers' compensation, as is the current policy applicable. And then on the last page is Article 22, which is consolidating our 9. This does mean we would pull Proposal 2, which was application of controlling documents. If you want to caucus on this tonight, I am willing to write it out. Otherwise, this is something we need to touch base with on in July.
I think we're good with that. Unless you guys want to work it out tonight.
My only concern is we have benefits that we would like to make sure are extended to you, and these sections of the handbook are not currently applicable to you, so we would like to make sure that we're fully extending those.
Okay.
Other than that, I will touch base with you the last week of the month, so we can set up our next session.
Sounds good.
We will have to proceed with the fact-finding process. I don't think we need a federal mediator at this point. I don't think this is mediation level, nor our job descriptions. Other than that, we are adjourned at 9:52.
Question. So,
Really?
not about this. No, it was about job descriptions. We brought the last counter for the firefighter job description, so do we want?
Have you had a chance to look at that one and, okay. Well,
Okay.
we'll, deal with it when we get there.
I kind of figured we would sit down and pop it up on the screen together, screen and walk through what we need, what you need, what you didn't like, and just have the dialogue,
Okay.
rather than try to trade those. So we're all gonna sit here, whoever's suffering through that, so we can all stare at one screen together.
Okay.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.